How you doing, people? Welcome back to another ESO video. Today we're going to go over some very important Sorcerer changes for Update 46 in the Elder Scrolls Online. So what happened? Should we delete our lazy sorks? No, we should not. So there are some very impactful changes for those of you that play Sorcerer, regardless of your play style. But more importantly, we're going to go over Storm Calling and Daedric Summoning today. There are some passive changes that are slightly altered in a way for resource management to make sense, especially if you are mixing classes, i.e., say, for example, the DK and the Sorcerer, taking advantage of two return resource passives or bonuses. Stacking them up is going to be OP as hell, so some of those have been reduced a little bit. But overall, we're going to look at some of this stuff. So, Storm Calling and Daedric Summoning mostly. Actually, there's one Dark Magic skill. We'll go over that in a moment. First of all, this was slightly reduced. It doesn't give you as much as it used to. This isn't altered. This will give you reduction to damage taken by 5% while you have a Daedric Summon ability active. See, that's not pets. That's abilities from this skill line if it is currently active. Pets are included, but anything from here. Also, increases your magic and stamina by 5% just for having this passive, but it will increase your health by 5% if you have a permanent pet. Permanent pet. It doesn't say Daedric Summoning pet. It says permanent pet. So that would include the bear. Anyway, that has been kind of mixed around a little bit and messed with just in case you make other choices. They don't want to tie it just to only these pets. There are Daedric Summoning skills and permanent pets. That has to be very clear. Now, Storm Calling hasn't been affected too badly when it comes to this kind of stuff. Obviously, we've got the increased weapon and spell damage change there, but that is actually a bit of a buff depending on who you are and how you play. You could argue that as a DPS, depending on your weapon and spell damage currently, 2% per slotted skill would have been stronger. But stay with me. If you're using something that has low weapon or spell damage, but you're taking advantage of all the sorcerer abilities, that 2% is nothing. This instead is a flat number. So you can now have a flat increase to your weapon and spell damage, giving you a bit of a boost to your damage and skills, even if your base stats are low. So on one side of the coin, it may be slightly more or slightly less. On the other side of the coin, it's definitely an increase. So that's a change that they had to make for the sake of consistency to make sure that everybody benefits rather than it being redundant on some builds. Now, the important stuff. The skills that have changed. This is massive. Crystal Fragments. Yes, if you've used this many, many times before, you know that it has a pink or purple version that lights up occasionally on your bar. It's going to happen at some point. There we go. That is your special version. Now, basically, Crystal Frags takes 0.8 seconds to channel, but any skill that isn't an ultimate, if you cast it, not just do damage, if you cast it, including Frags itself, can proc a purple version or a pink version. That is instacast. It's cheaper and it does more damage. So that, for those of you that already use it, is something that you would put on your front bar and hope to hell that it procs. You don't need to do that anymore. You can put this on any bar. So if you're on your back bar, keep an eye on your buffs and bonuses. You could do damage here. And it is ready. Yes, it goes through bar swap. So you can have that proccing on a different bar and come back to it and fire it. That is a bit of a game changer for frag spammers because now you've got more freedom of use and it's likely to fire much, much more often if you're on a 2-bar build rather than forcing it to try and fire on the front and then hanging out on the front bar for too long and not reapplying your other stuff. It's very, very useful. Now, Bound Armaments was altered as well. They've made this slightly easier to use. So if you weren't familiar with this already, for it being on your bar, you get extra stamina, you get loads of extra bonuses, which is quite nice. But essentially, you fire a light attack, and you get 1 stack. As you can see there, the pink square at the bottom of the screen is counting down. Fire again, stacks up to 2. Fire again, stacks up to 3, and then 4, and then you fire it. Just proc Crystal Frags. Handy. Anyway, if you do a heavy attack, it gives you 2. It goes up to 4. Well, now, to make it easier to use, you can actually stack it up to 8. And it's not 8 and 1 shot, it's 8 and 2 shots. So if you wanted to, you could stack it all the way up to 8 and just consistently fire 4 and then stack them, fire 4, stack them, fire 4, stack them, and you've still got 1 in the chamber for later. Failing that, if you are taking advantage of heavy attacks as a build, then instead of having to use 1 every 2, or firing a light attack and then a heavy and then another light attack, you can actually stack up 4 individual heavy attacks to stack up 2 whole procs of this particular skill. Short version, much easier to use. This is the big one. People worried about this. Conjured Ward has been altered in its morph states. Hardened Ward has a very large damage shield based off of your maximum health and your maximum magicka. So it is capped at 72% of your max health, but it is scaled off of whichever is highest, health or mag. Soon they need to make sure that this is for Stam 2, but whatever. As it stands, it's very, very strong, but on live, it will give you a heal as well. On the PTS, for update 46, it does not give you a heal. It is just considered a very large damage shield, like it was for many, many years, which we enjoyed and didn't struggle with. So I can hear people currently scream and saying, oh my god, my heal is gone. Technically not. Big damage shield or a heal. If you use the other version, it reduces the cost, increases the duration of the shield, and it will also grant you and your allies minor intellect and endurance, and its ability now applies a self-heal. The heal is not massive, the shield is slightly smaller, but this is now a buff to your group, a shield for you, and a heal for you. So, bigger shield, higher cost, lower cost, buff, and heal. Now, bear in mind, obviously, this one does affect your pets, and so does this, but this one is for larger damage mitigation. This one is for sustainability. So, if we look at this now, it's not going to be a huge heal. We aren't built for anything. That's 1.7, and I've got absolutely nothing attached to this build. On a full setup build, say Lazy Sorc or Easy Sorc, something like that, you're looking at about a 5 to 6k heal on a good day, if you're lucky. Generally speaking, depending on where you are, you're probably looking at about 3 or 4, but if you're fully optimized for the purpose of your setup, you're looking around 5 to 6k, which is really, really handy and on par with the current Hardened Ward. The only thing you have to consider, obviously, is this shield is smaller, but it's still a shield nonetheless. So that was their change for that one. Make them now a solid choice for which one you want. Lightning Flood is banging. For anyone using this particular skill or any morph of its type, this goes on the ground and does damage to enemies. Obviously, as you can see here, damage over time. Your allies can take a synergy. So they can use the conduit synergy and burst lightning will happen. Well, guess what? Now you can do it. That's right, you can activate your own synergy. So, not only is that good for solo application, but it's also good when you're in a situation and other people don't take your bloody synergy because you can take it anyway. And that technically means that if you're on point, your DPS, if you're using this skill in the first place, just went up. Once every 20 seconds, you get a burst of extra damage. Bear in mind, of course, that is very impactful, but it's you or an ally. It's not both of you, it's one or the other. And now finally, the one that is going to please everyone that's not a sorcerer, and probably piss off the ones that are, but you're going to have to apply some skill now rather than kill stealing. Mage's Wrath has been altered. Look at that target in front of me, look at the buffs and debuffs. That is a 2-second timer. That's right, Mage's Wrath has been altered. So, this applies to all versions of this particular skill, by the way. It still does damage on the enemy. It still does extra damage under 20%. It still does the burst damage if you fire it and it pops. But you can't now preempt this with a 4-second timer. And let's face it, in PvP, that's what people have been doing for a very long time. They put it on the target as it's about to die and they kill steal. Technically, you can still do that, but you need to be far quicker. So instead of 4-second timer, it's now 2. Before, you could apply this, do a full heavy attack, and wait for it to pop. Now, you're not going to have enough time to do that. So, that's that. Sorcerer has been altered. We've got ease of use with bound armaments, so technically a bit of a buff there. Stacking 2 in the chamber. Crystal Frags is such a phenomenal change. Very, very helpful indeed. Some of the passives are nice for subclassing and for the class itself, and adding an extra synergy to yourself, plus allowing you to have a recovery bonus for your heal shield now. It's in a good spot. So, let me know what you think in the comment section below, people. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you looking forward to update 46? Make sure, of course, you're hitting that sub button, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.